live now. Good evening, everyone. We are live. Welcome to the Zambian living in the UK. And I'm also joined by Elkanah Luam, who is a Zambian, currently living in Zambia and conducting business. Some of you might know Elkanah as Tando Sosala on Zuba. And welcome, guys. Say hello.
Hello. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hello, Elkanah. Can you hear us? I think your mic is muted, Elkanah. Hello, Elkanah. Your mic is muted. Elkanah? Hello? 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 Musonda, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay, for some reason, Elkanah, your mic is muted. If you could unmute your mic. The picture is frozen.
Are you not able to unmute him from your side?
No, I'm not able to. Elkanah, are you there? Okay, your mic is now unmuted. Hello, everyone joining us. I can just see more people joining us. Hello, how are you doing? Well, I don't know what's going on with our internet, but if Musonda, we could start by hearing an introduction about you. Who are you? What do you do? And that sort of thing.
Okay, yes. So yes, like Tinashe said, my name is Musonda Malama. I am based in the UK. I'm from Ndola. I was born in Ketu, but I consider myself from Ndola because that's where my family is from. I work as a transformation project manager. So basically what I do is I go into different organizations who've gone through changes or like a merger and acquisition, and I help them sort of bring the two businesses together, the two organizations together. So I do all the system changes for them. I project manage all their implementations of new systems, new policies and procedures, and that kind of thing. That's my regular job. But on the side, I also run a healthcare recruitment company in the UK where we recruit nurses and healthcare assistants and sometimes locum doctors. And we also recruit nurses from outside the UK, so mostly India and the Caribbean. Possibly looking to start recruiting from Africa, which is the main goal. So hopefully we can start doing it before the end of the year, recruiting from Zambia. That's one of my side businesses. And then the other one is a company called 5T's Consultancy, where we do consultancy services from project management consultancies and oil and gas consultancy. So basically what it is there's a lot of organizations in Africa, a lot of organizations and companies in Africa who have the money, the financial standing, and the skill to do business on an international level. But there is still a gap in the playing field where they're not considered at the same level as an international company or a company that's based in the UK, for example. So what my company do is we'll offer our consultancy services to those companies in, say, in Zambia, in Angola, in Kenya, in South Africa, as a partnership, so we can give them almost be like that international front for them, which also opens different doors for them to be able to do projects on the larger scale and be able to compete on an international playing field, because then they can say that we have delivered these projects. So we sort of partner up with African companies, help them get bigger projects from an international angle, and then leave them with the skill set to continue running those projects by themselves. And then the last thing that I do, this is my probably the favorite thing for me to do is mentor people. I was just talking to you about this, Tinashe. So
Yeah.
I am a qualified life coach. So I mentor young girls from mostly Zambia, but recently I started doing Uganda and Kenya and Ghana as well. And it's just giving back to the young people that are in Zambia who are trying to do things with their lives, whether it's career coaching, whether it's coaching them for job interviews, prepping them for decisions about which courses they want to do, whether it's a session as a moral support for confidence building and that kind of stuff. So that is probably one thing that I would do if I didn't have to work. That's what I would do full time, because I absolutely love coaching and mentoring people. I love to see someone start from really broken and discouraged to getting to a point where they said, you know what, this makes so much sense. I can't believe I've been selling myself short. I'm going to go and achieve this. And then seeing them go on and to achieve that thing that they were really scared to achieve from the start. So that's pretty much what I do.
Okay, that sounds very fascinating. Elkanah, are you able to get us now? Could you please give us a brief background of what you do and who you are? Elkanah, are you there? Your mic is unmuted now, but I can't hear you. Is it a network issue? Are you there? Oh, we seem to have lost Elkanah.
I think we've lost it.
Yeah, I think we'll wait for him to try and log back in. But you said something very interesting as you were talking about the company or consultancy and how you help African businesses broker with companies in the West. What would you say is the perception that companies outside have of African businesses?
I think, unfortunately, for African businesses and African organizations and just Africans in general, there's a lot of negative perception of what we can do and who we are. And I think it streams from, I don't want to say from the colonial times, but probably would start from there, where people have underestimated Africans and seen us as not having the kind of the level of intelligence to do things as the white people or the Western people would be able to do. So there's that one angle of it. And then the other angle is as well, looking at Africans as corrupt. There's a lot of perception of corruption, which is a bit unfair, because corruption is all across the world. You know, there's a level of every single place that you go to, but somehow Africans have painted with this brush of being corrupt. So I'll give an example. One of the companies that we work with in Zambia, they have a very good reputation, very good standing as a company, financial standing, very well established, and they do their work really, really well. But they could never get these big contracts because they were seen as an African company. And all we did was partner up with them, put ourselves, because our organization is based in, we have offices in the UK, in Dubai, and in Zambia as well. So already that just changes when they see that they are registered offices in the UK. It changes that perception almost to the extent where opportunities are given more than when they just see that it's an African-based company, which is a little bit frustrating. But I think that's something that we have to change. And that's why we try to work with these companies, partner up with them, let them do the work, and then they can use that as a reference to say, look, this is what we've done, this is what we've delivered. And then that gives them a chance to work on bigger projects and hopefully international projects as well. So it's trying to level the playing field between the Africans, our African brothers and sisters, and the Western companies that we deal with.
So what is one of the things that African countries can do to like come against this perception that they have?
I think the main thing that we can do, and I hope this doesn't offend anyone, is change our mindset and our perception of things. When we deal, as Africans, we have a few things that I think hold us back. One of them is the dependency, this dependence and expectation of other people to do things for you. When you think about Africa and our African people, we have contributed so much to the West. We pretty much have built the West for them. So we have the skill set, we have the knowledge, and we have the experience to do the same in our own space. But somehow we are more likely to accept someone from a Western way than our own, because we have this almost, you know, in Zambia we say like, oh, you know, we expect that white people things are better than the African things. It's almost like we'll give an opportunity to a foreigner before we give it to an African. So when we keep doing that, we're taking away opportunities from ourselves, not just the financial opportunities. We're taking away opportunities to build on our expertise. When I first started out with the consultancy business, and I am ashamed to admit this, but I will admit it, me and my business partner would use one of our other business partners who wasn't fully involved and much knowledgeable in the projects that we were working on as a face of our business, because he was a white man, you know, and it just made it easier for us to get our foot in the door, because he was a white man, and every time they would see a white man, they would take it a lot more seriously. So the time that we decided this has to stop is me and my business partner, who is also a black female she's from Zimbabwe. We had prepared this presentation that we had to do to a team of African directors from Liberia. So we did this presentation, but we had our director, our white face in the meeting with us. So as me and my friend had prepared the presentation, we were the ones who were fully informed on this project. We did all the presentation and all the talking. At the end of the call, they were all saying, "We thank you so much, Mr. Whiteman." You know, this is who they were thanking at the end of the call. And we got up the first time when we said, you know what, this is not right. As much as, you know, it helped us open up the doors, this is not what we're trying to do. We're trying to paint ourselves as we know what we're doing. We're the ones who are doing the work. We're the ones who've done this presentation. And the fact that they've turned around and gone and thanked someone who just looks the part and fits the description is a bit unfair. To be fair, we can't say it was unfair because it was our own doing. We didn't do it in the first place, you know. But it's the fact that because of how the world is set up, you still I think Elkanah.
Elkanah, are you there?
Are you getting feedback from my mic?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you have this open on more than one application?
No, we only have it open on one application now. But perhaps my, for some reason, the phone I'm using is giving you feedback.
Oh, I think the feedback isn't as bad now.
Yeah, we can hear you now, I think.
Maybe you can try with headphones again. Because now that the mics work, maybe try with headphones.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And the feedback is gone. Thank you. It's the internet in Zambia, hey?
All right.
Okay, we understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Musonda, so you were talking about your encounter with your business partner.
Yes. So yeah, what I was saying is the fact that we even had to consider having that white representative in front of our business tells you the state of, and to be fair, it's not even from this side, like from the UK, it's mostly when we deal with Africans where they have this perception that they want to work with the white, the foreigners more than they want to work with the Zambians. So I don't do that anymore. It's part of our organization in the back, and we get support from a project board, program board perspective, but he's not part of our organization. But first, he's not the first of the business anymore. We learned our lesson.
Okay. I think that's very fascinating, and it's good to see that you actually developed your business to a point that you now represent other African businesses that are suffering from that perception issue. So that's a win on your side. Hello, Elkanah, thank you for joining us. Could you please tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
All right. First of all, hi. Thanks for having me. Apologies for the technical difficulties. My name is Elkanah Luam, and I'm an actor and entrepreneur. My areas of focus in entrepreneurship specifically focus around
Hello, Elkanah.
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Or is
Yes, so
Zambian
you were saying
internet still tripping up a bit?
it's so bad. It's so
All right,
bad
so I was
today.
it's terrible. Because you guys are jumping on my end as well. I don't know what's wrong with the internet. But yes, so I was explaining that I'm an actor, obviously, and I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a production company, and basically we create indie films, we do TV series, we do adverts and things like that. And then we've got a food truck and obviously a catering company as well. And then lastly, we do real estate development because in Africa, you kind of have to have 99 jobs, multiple streams of income. So that's a bit about what I do.
Okay. Okay, so this is a question to both of you. How would you define your long-term vision for Africa and for Zambia?
I've done a lot of talking, so I'll let Elkanah go first.
Musonda, would you like to go first? All right.
Elkanah, you can go first,
I think. All right, no problem. I think for me, the most important thing is just to try and inspire as many people as I can. I suppose being an entrepreneur and being in the startup industry, it takes a lot longer for us to gain the kind of returns that we'd like to basically empower other local entrepreneurs and young Zambians. And so for us, or for me in particular, the biggest thing is to try and inspire people and to basically give them hope that they can do it as well. In a more long-term goal, I suppose we'd like to be able to generate the kinds of profits where we can go back and have a significant impact in terms of corporate social responsibility, you know, things like scholarships, education, pushing for civic education as well, and basically trying to foster a more democratic and a more accountable government so that the economy is more suitable for entrepreneurship.
Okay, nice. And Musonda?
Yeah, I think I have to agree with what Elkanah has just said. Obviously, for me, the focus is more on the shift in the mindset. I live in the UK. I've lived in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Qatar. So I have seen a lot of different countries and nationalities and how they deal with things. And I think one thing that we're lacking as Zambians is that drive of I will do anything regardless of what it takes, you know, to make me move forward, to get somewhere where I need to get to. And I think the reason we have that, it goes back to what I said before, we do have a lot of dependency syndrome where we expect a handout. And that is to do mostly because there's not many opportunities in the country. So people will expect their family members who are doing better to give them a handout, which is a natural thing to do. But it needs to come to a point where people are saying, do you know what, if I have to clean streets and do some cleaning jobs just to raise enough money to start my own business or go to school and be qualified, people need to start having that mindset of I can do whatever I push myself to do it. Whatever it is I apply myself, I'll be able to do it. And also as well from the government side, what Elkanah just said, we need some accountability. I think it's understandable when someone is in power, they will give opportunities to their friends and their relatives and whoever they know. That's a natural human thing to do. If you had the opportunity and you know that Musonda can do this job, you will call me and say, do you want to do this job? And that's fine. I don't really have a problem with that. What I have a problem is putting people in positions who will get in with who you know, but you need to stay in based on your skills and your abilities. Only then would we continue to build a country that will empower young people and give them opportunities. The reason people become discouraged is because when they look at the bigger picture, there isn't much going on for them. So what are the chances of me trying and pushing myself? And I know sometimes when I'm speaking to my girls, I'll be saying to them, look, you can achieve anything, you can do this. And they're like, yeah, but you're in the UK, you know? And then I don't really have much to say because it is a fair point. I do have better opportunities than they do. But then we need to get our country to a point where people start to believe that actually anything is achievable if I do that. And I think it has to start from the top.
Okay, great. So how would you both define what entrepreneurship is or what an enterprise is? And starting with you, Elkanah.
All right, so not to try and be the stereotypical textbook definition, but an entrepreneur, in my opinion, is someone who sees a problem or identifies an opportunity where they can add value to society. Personally, I feel like the most successful entrepreneurs do one of those two things. You know, you're either solving a problem that is very pressing in society, or you're adding value and making people's lives that much easier and convenient. And so, yeah, for me, that's pretty much how I define it.
Hello?
Are we frozen or are we still on?
Can you guys hear me? Has it gone frozen again? Can you hear me? Okay, and so just to add on to that,
So
you're solving problems and adding.
Oh my internet
Can you
is
hear
terrible.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know if I'm frozen, but
Can
you guys hear me?
Who's frozen now?
Okay. Anyway, just to continue answering the question, adding value, solving problems, obviously to gain some kind of financial reward through risk.
Hello, Elkanah.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, it looks like Tinashe's gone.
What, did we lose the host? So we just carry on.
Yeah, it looks like it. So maybe you'd like to take the question now.
I think I have to agree with you. It's about looking at the gaps and scaling the landscape and trying to understand what gaps are in the market and how you can fill those gaps. So you say when there's a need and trying to find how you can solve the problem that's there, and trying to find out what the risks are. What are the risks around me doing this? And ideally trying to making calculated decisions, deciding, right, okay, this is the risk that is involved with me doing this business, but this is what I would end up with, and what is the financial gain at the end of it? Because, you know, we don't do business just for the fun of it. We do need to get paid and feed ourselves. So yeah, I agree with you definitely.
Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned, Musonda, was the perception of your girls, and it is a fair comment. It is much harder to start. So do you have tips for like startups? How do you start? Because like, for example, Elkanah, you are popularly known for the role that you played in a popular local series. And I know you don't want me to bring that up, but I'm bringing it up because I think people have this perception of people in the entertainment industry. And it's very encouraging when you actually find out that, okay, you use your talents, but you also have businesses going on the side. So if you could sort of both give your stories as to how you started with your businesses, your inspiration, some of the routes that you took, for example, maybe you'd like to also add information concerning how to find financing.
Should I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay, so for me, what I tell my girls who want to get into business is just get started, just do it. Because usually when you speak to people about these things, the first thing they say, it's really hard. You know, my brother tried and then he didn't make any money, or I know this person used to do this. Just get started. When I was living in Qatar, I'd been there for a couple of years and I was working in the same field that I work in, product management. And I decided to start a business with my business partner. We started a business for fruit and vegetables. We'd never worked in fruit and vegetable business before. And when we looked online, we found that there were so many companies who were supplying fruit and veg to Qatar and within Qatar. So the first thing is it's saturated. That's the first thought you would have. But I remember saying to my business partner, if it's saturated, it means there's people buying. You know, you wouldn't have all these people doing it if there was no one buying from them. So we decided to go for it anyway. So I had a full-time job. I finished my work at 4. I would drive to this warehouse. It was called the wholesale market. And it was just a market full of men just moving around with their trolleys, selling their vegetables, boxes of food from India, Kenya, Uganda, or whatever. And we were just there speaking to them and asking questions. Where do you get your products from? Can we get you some products from Zambia? And that was the initial plan, to get products from Zambia. But that didn't work out because it didn't work out. I won't say why it didn't work out, only because it might be taken in the wrong way, but it didn't work out. So we opted for products from Uganda in the end. We found a supplier in Uganda all online, just Googled someone, found a company in Uganda who started sending us products. In the space of 2 months, we went from not knowing a thing about business in Qatar, not knowing a thing about fruit and veg, to turning over $200,000 in a space of 2 months. So if you listen to people how it's possible, you will not get started. If you don't get started, you can't get anywhere. So from a point of business, just get started, whatever it is. Do your research, try to understand, go and mingle with the people who are doing the work that you want to do. Speak to people who you think are doing the same thing and try and seek advice. Now, I know with my people, we have a way where if someone asks you for advice in the field that you're working in, the first thing we say, "Kyari shupa," you know? So I know that, but then try and find the ones who are willing to help you, you know? So do your research if you can. Most of the things that we need to know is on the internet. Try and find that on the internet. Try and find the people doing the same thing and say, "Do you know what? This is actually working. Can you tell me how you did this?" And I'll be honest with you, many successful business people are willing to help those who are starting out. It's the ones who are struggling, who are quick to tell others that it's not going to work. Because they've failed to do it, they want to justify why it doesn't work. So they'll tell you it doesn't work. Or those who don't believe in their own ability to scale up their business. So for me, I know that if I've started a business and someone else starts the same business, they're not taking away from me. You know, it's empowering them. They're calling me and saying, "What do I do about this?" I'll advise you on what to do. So just get started, regardless of what everyone says. You know, get started, learn your lessons. Some lessons will be expensive. I've had pretty expensive lessons, but learn your lessons and just keep going. And also know why you started. If you don't know why you started, every time you hit a hurdle, you'll turn back. But if you know why you started and where you're going, regardless of what you make, you'll hit mountains, you jump all over them and keep going. The reason people turn back in business is they start and they don't know why they started. They don't have a solid reason on why they started. So anytime they reach an obstacle, they turn back because, you know what, actually, it's too difficult. I'm going back. This wasn't even for me, you know. So it's about understanding why you want to start the business. And when you know that, if you can get a mentor to support you and help you, do that. If you can't do your own research, prepare yourself, understand the market you're trying to get into. You cannot sell what you don't understand. Understand the market, do your research, study, and then apply yourself and go. And then another thing that I would just say, sorry, I'm going on a lot, but one thing that I would say, maybe limit who you speak to, especially people who haven't done what you're trying to do, because they will just discourage you. They'll tell you it's impossible, it's difficult. They'll bring up their uncle in the village who tried to do the same thing and it didn't work. So try and only speak to people who you know that will get your vision and will understand it, or those that you have seen are doing it and are willing to help you and support you. So my advice is just get started.
Nice. Those you've really dropped a lot of gems in what you just said. Like the whole thing of knowing who to speak to, because obviously you need criticism when you start, but there are those people that are giving you criticism not to build you, but to break you and to discourage you. So I think that's very profound. Elkanah, what are your thoughts?
Sorry, sometimes it's not even to break you and to criticize. It's just because they've not been able to do it. It might come from a protection thing. So say, for example, your parents whose idea of success is getting a job and working till you're 40 and retiring and collecting your pension, and that's safe, you know. And then you say to them, "Mom, I'm going to drop out of, I'm going to quit my job to run my own business." They might tell you it's not going to work and it's not safe from a point of love, and this is all they know. You know, so it might not even stem from a point of jealousy. It might just come from a point of not understanding the opportunities around themselves.
That makes so much.
I think you guys are breaking. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, and I can hear a dog or a baby crying in the background. I'm not sure whose that is.
All right. Tinasha, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
All right. Can I go ahead?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sure.
All right. So that's a very tough response to follow. I think Musonda has pretty much summed it up in a nutshell. So yeah, similarly, it's about just getting started. I think for me, the most important thing about why I joined entrepreneurship was really just financial independence. I remember from a very young age not wanting to rely on anyone in order to get things I wanted. And obviously, as I've gotten older, the things I want changed. So I'll give you a very simple example of what happened. In primary school, I used to like something called sherbet. So we had blue mouth and red mouth. And I'd always have to beg my parents for coins, obviously, to go and buy the sherbet from the local tuck shop. And I remember one Christmas I went, got quite a lump sum of money as a gift. and then went and bought myself a whole box and started selling this. And so what I found was if I put markup on this, I'd get my sherbet back. I'd get to have a few for myself and obviously be able to keep retaining the business. And for me, that's pretty much where it started, and there was no going back. So I would say financial independence, a real desperate need to not rely on anyone to provide anything I wanted, and obviously the ability to choose my own preferred lifestyle, and therefore being able to work for it. And yeah, I suppose the rest has fallen in place ever since. I would describe myself as a serial entrepreneur. I wouldn't restrict myself to just one avenue of entrepreneurship. There are a lot of things that excite me, a lot of things that interest me, and I'd like to try my hand at many different things and see how many of those things I could succeed at. So like Musonda said, the most important thing for me, and I suppose what has helped me achieve relative success, but there's still a long way to go, is just getting started, seeing something you like, obviously analyzing your market, seeing how best you can solve a problem, like we both said before, and just giving it your best shot. I mean, the worst that can happen is you don't succeed, and the best that could happen is you become a millionaire in the process. So, yeah.
Okay, so something that I've drawn from both of you is something critical behind this is your mindset. Like when you first of all tell yourself that you're capable of achieving something, it's most likely that you are. But then there's also the aspect of failure is inevitable. And I get that from what you said, Musonda, concerning just start. Because I think many times we find ourselves disarmed or stagnant in one position because we're scared of failing, and therefore we're trying to make things as perfect as possible before we actually start, that so much time winds up lapsing. And then Elkanah, you also spoke about you've tried so many things, and obviously some have been successful and some haven't. And I think that's something we're going to have to get rid of, especially in Zambia. I think we're very afraid of failure. And I think we're afraid of failure because we ridicule each other a lot.
Yes.
We expect the entrepreneurs that get it right the first time to be the ones that we give our accolades to. But even the people that have failed obviously leave with so many lessons. So I think those are some very profound lessons. Okay, so what would you say is the role of innovation in entrepreneurship?
Would you like to go first?
No, you can go first. I don't mind.
Okay, what is the role of entrepreneurship and innovation? To sum it up as briefly as I can, I just say to make life more convenient. Innovation, if you break it down to its basic essence, is just how life can be lived as what's the right word? Efficiently and smoothly as possible. Whether it's regards to solving a problem in the healthcare industry or starting up a delivery company that brings food to people's houses or whatever it may be. It's about convenience and making life as simple as possible, and that's innovation in my own terms.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's about being strategic and analyzing opportunity. So I'll give an example. One story that I like to refer back to when I mentor my girls is the Blockbuster. I think Blockbuster, the DVD rental company, out DVDs, and we used to watch movies off them. And so the person who started Netflix went to Blockbuster and tried to sell that idea to them, and they didn't think it was something that was worth them getting involved in. And now look at where we are. Blockbuster is no longer in existence, and Netflix is thriving. So as someone who works in any form of business, you need to constantly keep yourself evolving. You need to constantly be seeing how you can keep up with the changes, especially now we live in a digital world where things are shifting like this. If you don't know how to use the internet now, your business will not thrive. You need to find ways to keep up with the changes that are happening, and you need to keep renovating yourself, and you need to keep changing up and upgrading yourself as a business person to keep up with the changes in time. And I think for me, that's how I would see it. It's about making sure that you analyze what are the opportunities out there. What is it? Not just being sort of narrow focused, like eagle-eyed on your business. This is my business. This is what I do. And looking around and looking at the side, what other opportunities can I dig into and tap into and grow my business from, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I think you both brought out very interesting points. Like, I guess in essence, businesses need to be flexible to be able to survive the business environment globally because the world is constantly changing. Musonda, I know that you work, one of the things that you do is you help businesses catch up to the digital space.
Yes.
How can we do that in Zambia, for example, where you've seen how bad the internet is, right? And then number two, the pushback from the culture.
One of so the
people sometimes.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, people are less willing to adapt. So how can we do that in Zambia? But primarily, how can a startup do this?
So one of the companies that I'm currently working on a contract for is a housing association here in Liverpool. So this housing association is the biggest housing association in the northwest of England. They have 40,000 properties. In 2019, they merged. It was two organizations that came together. So it was one organization that was very agile, very forward-thinking. They did everything. People worked from home as long as you did your 30 hours of work every week. They didn't care where you did it as long as you delivered your deliverables and you did what you needed to do. They didn't. The other side of the organization were very strict in their ways. It was like the council. So they work from 9 to 5. They come in at 9 to 5, sit at their desk, they swipe a card and clock in and do their work. You know, it's very very structured. So to have these two organizations try and come together, the biggest thing that I had is the culture, trying to change the culture and the thinking of people. And that is the biggest challenge in any situation where you're trying to bring in change. You have to change the thinking of the people. But in order to do that, you have to show them that the new ways that I'm bringing in are not here to disrupt what you know. This is not to disrupt your way of thinking. This is to help you and to work better, to work more efficiently, to work smarter than work harder. You know, so the first thing that you would do in this situation is to try and change the culture and the thinking of the people, but you have to show them why this is beneficial to them. As humans, we're naturally selfish. If I come to you and say, Tinashe, I'm looking to implement this because it's going to work well for me, you won't care. But if I come to you and say, right, Tinashe, the reason we're looking to implement this is you won't have to work these long hours. You'll be able to do this in a shorter space of time. You then see the benefit for yourself. What am I gaining from this? And when you see what you're gaining from something, it's easy to support. So to get the buy-in from the other people, the Zambian people, we need to be showing them the benefit in the changes that we're trying to bring, you know, whether it's the digital changes, but then like you've mentioned, some of the changes, I don't know what the situation is now. I was speaking to one of my friends, but she's a director at one of the banks in Zambia. So she can work from home. She's got the ability to work from home. But I was saying to her, what about the other staff that can work from home? You know, only the people who sit in an office are able to work from home, but we have a lot of people who work in, you know, they sell at the markets and they work at the bus stations, and you know, how do we support those? Again, ties back to what I said previously about the government being able to bring in certain things that we can support our young people, our Zambians in general. I think there's an element of things that we can change ourselves, where I, Musonda, can make a difference. This is what I can do. And then there's a thing where no matter what I do, there is this roadblock that I can't cross because the place that I am in, the environment I'm in, does not allow me to go any further than this. So this is where we need to start looking at the opportunity that the government puts in place, especially in terms of technology, supporting the startups. I know there's a couple of young people on my Facebook who started up like these digital organizations and businesses, and I think they've had like trips to America to do all these different things, but Zambia needs to invest a little bit more of the money into technology and digital startups. We have so many people who've gone to university who've studied technology and stuff. For us to be having this kind of Wi-Fi where people are in and out, you know, it doesn't make any sense. What is the point of having all these universities and all these graduates if we're not taking advantage of their skills and abilities and asking them? And you know, I'll be honest with you. I went to school in Zambia and I went to school in the UK. When I came to the UK, my level of education was so far advanced compared to the people my age in the UK. So this is where I know that our education system is nothing to be played with, where our education system is amazing. So we have the right skill set and understanding and education. We just need to start using it wisely. And whether this is where the government needs to start throwing money into technology and investing and helping young people to see that they can do this, you know, to see that this is something that we can do. But again, it has to come from the top somehow. There's only so much that we can do as ourselves, and then they reach the point where we need the support from the government.
Okay. Just quickly though, is there any way that as people we can sort of detect, because I know there were lots of detect the direction in which technology and let's say entrepreneurship or business trends are going, because I know there's a lot of people that were forced to catch up with the digital space during this COVID-19 crisis, or they were going to. But is there a way, like, are there any tips or tricks you could give to, let's say, startups? Because let's say the Netflix, like you mentioned the Netflix founder, he was on to something. And at the time that Blockbuster was still in existence, that was years ago. Yeah. I don't think any of us could have envisioned TV to evolve the way that it has. So are there any tips you could give entrepreneurs?
I think it's about looking at what's trending and what's you know, what the young people are into, because we're basically mostly the market, you know. No offense to our parents, but you know, they're not being targeted for digital stuff, but it's mostly the young people. So what is it that the young people are into? That's what you look at. So for example, look at social media. Facebook started off as Facebook, and everyone, you know, we used to be on MySpace, and then we went to the high fives and all the Bebo and whatever, and then Facebook started, and Facebook saw, and then when Instagram started, Facebook was already in existence, but they could see that, hold on, people are starting to move more towards that. So they invested in Instagram, they bought out Instagram. So it's about looking what's trending, what are the young people into, what's keeping people excited. And that's easy to do by just doing your research, going online, seeing what people are talking about, what kind of conversation. You can't predict what the next big break is going to be, you know, your next big invention, but you can have an idea based on doing your research and trying to see what's trending and what are people pushing more towards, basically, from my understanding anyway.
Okay, and Elkanah, do you have any thoughts on the question I just asked?
All right, you're gonna have to keep me bring me back up to date, as I went off briefly, so I'm a bit behind as to where we are exactly.
Okay. So I was just asking a question around the ability for startups and entrepreneurs to detect the trends, that upcoming trends and just changes in the market. For example, she gave the example of the founder of Netflix going to Blockbuster because he was able, or the founder was able to see the direction in which the market would head. And at the time that Blockbuster was still in existence, I don't think other people were looking at the trends in that way. So do you have any tips or any thoughts regarding the matter?
I do, actually, and my tips are very heavily centered towards Zambian and African people in general. There's this perception here in Africa in particular that we kind of have to reinvent the wheel when everything has been done for us. And the best example I'd give is the owner of Orlando Creative Media and also Orlando Taxi Cab app here, which if you know it, Tinashe, obviously, and for Musonda, it's basically like the Zambian Uber. So what we see is there's a bit of a reluctance by international conglomerates to come and establish basically their businesses in countries that are developing or third world countries, except for South Africa and maybe Nigeria and to an extent Kenya. So with the access to internet and obviously being able to follow trends, like you're saying, it's really easy for us to just keep our ears on the ground, read, research, see things that innovate in Western countries and just be able to implement in here. So like you're saying, there's Uber. I don't know if I should be giving this out, but it's a business idea I for example wanted to implement.
Don't do
apps,
it.
but for example,
Oh, she told you don't do it.
Anyway, just apps. No, I will give this idea out because maybe there's someone out there who might be able to execute it better than I can. But for example, apps that basically help you identify properties. You know, here in Africa, we're still so far behind, and we have real estate agents who kind of want to take you around everywhere. But if you created an app, for example, where people can just log in, type an area code, and be able to find all the houses in that area, you'd really innovate, solve a problem, and easily be able to capture your market and make some money. So yes, referencing a lot of what the West has done and just reapplying and obviously localizing the IT technology and infrastructure here is a very great way to predict what's going to happen and where the world is moving.
Okay, that's great. That's some helpful advice. Could both of you just give a brief breakdown of the unique dynamics of the industries that you both work in? Starting with you, Elkanah.
So the food industry in Zambia is very interesting. So on my restaurant side was sort of a mobile food truck type of concept, and obviously that was taken from the Western mobile food truck idea and concept. It kind of works here. The only difference is takeout is not as much of an everyday thing as it is in the West or even South Africa. So you kind of want to be ahead of the curve. You know, you're looking at mobility and being able to access markets as fast as possible. And so, yeah, we're trying to push the culture of takeaway. We're trying to push the culture of food on the move, and it's slow, but it's picking up. You know, people are beginning to identify with it. Like I was saying, with access to information and the internet, they're also able to see these trends and see where these ideas are coming from, and are adapting slowly. On the film industry perspective, technology, as I also said, is improving. So it becomes a lot easier for us to create quality works that can compete on an international standard. It wouldn't be as developed as our counterparts, but because we have access to information, again, it's a lot easier for us to put out work that is of a basic standard and to be able to innovate and give people here locally and people who come from abroad back to Zambia a similar experience to what they'd feel, I suppose, in more developed countries. I think Tinashe just missed that, but I'm sure
Musonda?
Yeah, she's like, yeah.
A bit of what I'm saying.
No, I think I heard it. The video went away, but I was able to hear everything.
Okay.
Fortunately.
Okay, so from the consultancy business, the healthcare business I'll start with because that's a lot easier. So it's a recruitment business, which is mostly nurses and healthcare assistants here in the UK. I do find that most of the staff that work for us are actually African, which is great. But it's also, but this goes back to my initial point. We have Africans building the West, doing the work for the West, so we are able then to go back to Africa and do the same in our own countries. Then from the consultancy business, it's a very male-heavy industry that I work in, which is project management for construction companies and oil and gas consultancy. It's very male-heavy, so I do find that it's a little bit shocking for men when they have to deal with me and my business partner, who are mostly female, or are both female. Sorry. So we have had a lot of challenges where people will look at you like, "What is a woman know about oil and gas? What do you know about that?" But we had to spend a lot of time investing in studying and understanding the logistics that are involved, the challenges that are involved, but also the main challenge that we found, and that's what motivated us to set up the consultancies. We were going to start just buying oil from the Middle East, where I lived for 7 years, to bring it to Africa. And we found that when our buyer would be based in Africa, there would be no interest whatsoever, regardless of how good the deal opportunities running. The minute they found out it was an African company that wanted to buy the product, they wanted nothing to do with you. Even if you showed them, look, this company has the financial standing, they're able to afford this, they wouldn't want anything to do with it. So that's why we decided to set up these consultancies to sort of bridge that gap. So we would they would raise the instrument of finance to us, and then we'll be able to buy the product on their behalf. So what we're trying to do is almost build that trust for African countries to say, look,
we seem to have lost Musonda.
Have you lost
Musonda? We lost you for a bit.
No,
I'm right here.
No, I can hear her.
Oh.
You can hear her? Okay, then it's my internet. I think the last thing I heard you say was having to set up the consultancy because of the perception of that African businesses you're trying to purchase oil from we're getting. So you set up the consultancy to bridge the gap.
To bridge that gap and almost give this sort of that we've set up our company is based. We have an office in Dubai and the UK and in Zambia. So we would then say, right, this is a company that is buying the product as the initial introduction. So we would buy the product on the behalf of the the organization in Zambia or South Africa or Zimbabwe, whichever country we're dealing with. And then once that deal's been broken, we built that trust relationship and the payments have been done on time, we'll then say, look, actually, the people you're buying from you is this African company that you didn't want to interact with in the first place. And we're hoping that that will start to change the narrative a little bit, and they start to perceive Africans as a little bit better. From a project management perspective, it's, say for example, so this is the best example I can think of. Let's say the funding is given to Zambia for $5 million to build the works in the hospital. Yeah. The way we have the setup now, and I'm not saying, this is not saying anything about anyone, but the way we have the setup now, there is a big chance that the 5 million will not be fully used on that hospital. So when you have an independent project consultant who are managing the funds that are invested into a project or given in, those people will manage the budget. They will say, right, here we are, this is what we do. Right, okay, we'll find the contractors, say, these are the contractors who come and work for the hospital. Right, we'll hire the people who come and do the works and everything. And then once they've done the work, we'll say, right, these people have done the work, pay them for this much. They've done this much. If it's a 5-year project, say they've done this much, we'll pay them for this now. Then we move forward. They've done this, we'll pay them now. So what that takes away is that corruption. And, I'm sure there will be some level of corruption somewhere, but it cuts off that obvious, this 5 million is missing. Where did this money go? No one can find it, but it cuts off that. So there might be some level of corruption somewhere at the very high level in the back, but it won't be on that project because the independent project consultants will make sure that they manage the money, they manage the workload, they don't issue any payments until the work has been done. Also, it takes away from people giving contracts to their brothers and their sisters and just, hiring people on the basis of, I know them. It would be, every contractor will be judged and assessed on the basis of their performance and whether they're able to do the work. So that is from the project management perspective. And I hope that that's something that we can start looking at across Zambia and across Africa to make sure that we reduce the level of corruption that we currently have. And that was
Hello, Musonda, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. From what you've said, I think I really like how you've started to, in a very innovative way, started to deal with a lot of problems that are available, a lot of problems that exist in Africa. And I remember in our preliminary conversation, when I mentioned that, you mentioned how one of the problems with our businesses in Africa is we like to look at what our neighbor is doing and start doing that rather than look at the gaps. So, for example, you could your neighbor's suppliers opposed to also going into the same business that they are. Why don't you do it? But I think I don't know if we're not taught certain analysis skills, or maybe we're a bit too lazy sometimes to analyze. But also what I like about like the type of business that you've gone into is you're also solving problems, right? And you're solving problems at like a macro level we might have not even thought about. So what you were talking about, your project management side of things and how you sort of you've created a business
You're breaking quite a bit.
Oh wow. What's the last thing you
No, I can hear you fine.
I hope it's just
I can't really hear you. Maybe it's my internet.
Okay, so I was saying that you've been able to create a business that becomes a broker for one, the perception of African companies. So companies that would have not been able to do business before are now able to do business because they have your consultancy services. But then also, you've also helped mitigate some of the real challenges that exist everywhere in the world. For example, corruption. So I think that, and then from Elkanah, one of the things that I got, like even for example, with what you said regarding the app idea for like house agents, is that you're very innovative. And I know we've had like business conversations before, like before today, and that's one of the reasons why I thought you'd be like an excellent person for this talk, because you just have this mind that is just able to see gaps and business opportunities where other people might not be looking. So another question is, from the unique dynamics that you've mentioned in your business, how have you been able to overcome some of the challenges? So, for example, Elkanah, I know that when you decided you were going to go into the food truck business, you had certain issues with the council regarding how, for example, maybe they would want you to be situated at one place as opposed to moving your food truck around, which is a model you see in other countries, but won't work in Zambia because you get in trouble with the council. And Musonda, you mentioned the perception of you being a woman in the oil and gas industry. People thought you weren't competent enough simply because you were female. How have you been able to overcome these challenges?
Should I go first, or do you want to go?
Please.
You can go first.
Please. No, you can go ahead.
Okay. To be honest, as much as that is a challenge for me, I've been very lucky because I've never been one that is intimidated by anyone. I come from a family of women, very strong women. We're majority women in my family. I think we've got like the ratio of 1 man to every 10 women. So there's never been that fear of having, I'm in the presence of a man, so I have to keep quiet or whatever. That's never been a way that I was raised. I've always been able to represent myself to the best of my ability. And even when I mentioned before, when we used to have that male character that we would use as our partner and put him as a forefront, it wasn't because he was a man, it was mostly because he was white. That's the only reason that we would use him, not because he was male, but because he was white. So I do find dealing a lot with African men. They do tend, when they find that, you go on the video call and they see that you're a young woman, they start to try and change the conclusion, make it a little bit, but I just always make sure that I just bring it back, nip it in the bud straight away. Sorry, you haven't got a chance. No matter, I don't know what you're trying to do, but that's not going to work. We're here to talk business, and this is how we're going to work. And it's just always being assertive, without being disrespectful, but just making it clear that this is about business. And the way you conduct yourself, people will know from the offset that you can't be talking as she's just a woman, but you have to conduct yourself in a way that you believe in what you're saying, you know what you're saying. And again, it goes back to what I was saying before. If you're going into a business, make sure you do your research. The initial challenges for us were mostly not having the knowledge of the oil and gas business. So that was more a challenge than being female. Okay, so when you don't have to answer certain questions, and then it's going to bring in the woman thing. But if you tackle all of those, it's almost like you preempt. I come from project management, so I believe in risk management. You manage the risk. What is the risk? If this person's going to sue me as a female who doesn't know what she's doing, I need to make sure that I've schooled myself enough that he cannot argue with me on this subject without me knowing the answers to it. So we went and studied and understood the market to a T, that we can have conversations with people who've been in the industry for years and be sat at the same table. And no one's going to say you stand out because you don't know what you're talking about. We spent a lot of time. We spent about 2 years of background research and understanding, making mistakes, being scammed and being led on to things that were not going anywhere for a long time before we got to a level where we're like, you know what, now we know. As soon as a company might say, we want to work with you, and they'll send us an order on this, we can tell from the word-go whether it's going to be a real buyer, a real client, or not, just based on the paperwork they sent to us. Why? Because we've had 2 years of knowing what's fake and what's real. We've had 2 years of understanding the market and understanding that there is a lot of corruption and a lot of farmers in the oil and gas business, and a lot of people just trying to who don't know what they're doing. They're just trying to chance the big break. They've heard that, someone made a lot of money from oil and gas, so they're trying to get into it as well. So we've had a lot of time to learn and understand the market. So the challenges almost are pushed aside, because when I'm speaking to you about oil and gas, I know what I'm talking about. So we have no reason, no basis to undermine you because I'm a female.
Wow. Elkanah?
All right, so I'd like to talk both about the production company and, of course, the food truck. I'll start with the food truck and basically say, because it's a relatively new concept to Zambia, I know we have street vending as a general practice here in Zambia and probably around Africa. Street vending is generally stationary and in one location, so they try to apply that to the food truck model as well. So usually my approach to trying to overcome zoning restrictions is obviously you give them your residential place and obviously where you're stationed permanently. And then from there, you get into sort of strategic partnerships with people who don't mind you selling your food in their various locations, obviously because that brings a crowd towards their particular business. like, bars, car washes, festivals, and events. And it's pretty much in the private sector and private-owned properties. I know you do get into quite a bit of trouble with the council if they find you in places which aren't registered on your certificate of incorporation. So yes, strategic partnerships with the private sector, knowing exactly where you're going, really understanding the rules and regulations is what's kind of helped us be able to maneuver our way from location to location. And for the production company, because we're relatively new and young, though not inexperienced, the biggest tool for us has been leveraging the internet. It's been hard for up and coming filmmakers traditionally to try and break through and get their films viewed by many people. And so social media has been a fantastic tool for us to be able to put our work out there and get good feedback, and obviously get people to commission and believe in your brand. I mean, nowadays with how affordable equipment is, you can buy yourself a camera and all the basic necessities, shoot your film. As long as the story makes sense, the technical execution is there, and you're able to push this out onto an audience and also film festivals, you can really begin to make a career out of filmmaking and really share your stories with the world. So social media for us, understanding our rules and regulations, and also understanding that most business in Zambia is still in its infancy. So there's a lot of gray areas in regard to red tape and what you can and cannot do. When you understand those regulations and how to maneuver that gray area, you find things a lot more smoother and easier to execute.
Okay. I think those are some very helpful tips. And I think it shows that you have to be willing to be adaptable and sometimes even think on your feet as an entrepreneur. I love what you said, Musonda, about taking a risk assessment. And I think being very honest about some of the challenges that, for example, as a woman, you will face when you stand up to do anything. Men are going to think that they can take advantage of you simply because you're a woman. And I love that you said, like, you nip it in the bud. Like, I'm not going to make you think that. And the sad thing is, we have seen women say they have lost out on business because they were blatant. But the thing is, I would rather lose out on that and, retain credibility.
Yeah.
So I think that's very helpful information for young women. And Elkanah, from what you said, I think sometimes there can be a lot of bureaucracy and we have a lot of rules which sometimes impede business progression more than they actually help. So yeah, I like what you said about having strategic partnerships. So again, your innovative mind comes to play there, where you look for loopholes, I guess, and how to deal with the issue. But just as we begin to wind up, what are some of the lessons that you've learned, like the hardest lessons you've learned, and just tips you're going to give other young people wanting to start business, like things they should not do because you've made the mistake for them and they shouldn't get into it?
Yeah, for me, one of the hardest lessons that I learned, which was one of the most expensive lessons that I learned because it cost us a lot of money, was the fact that you shouldn't get excited just because an opportunity is put on the table. You shouldn't get excited without understanding what's involved. Read, if there's a contract that isn't there, make sure you read it and understand it. If you know someone who's a lawyer, speak to them and ask them to advise you on that, and make sure that you're signing your name to something that makes sense and is fair to you. So this goes back to the fruit and veg business that I was running in Qatar, and that's the reason that we had to stop it, because we lost a lot of money. And we did have a contract in place, but it wasn't tight knit enough, which is a very stupid mistake to make from my side because I come from a legal background. So there was no need to make that mistake, but it was because this opportunity was put in front of us and we just felt so privileged to have the opportunity because we haven't done anything like it before. It was a lot of money. So we just thought, this sounds amazing. All logic went out the window. Whereas the usual thing that I would do is sit down and understand what does it say, what is in it for me? Have I made sure that we've covered ourselves? Is everything safe? But because I felt like the person who's given the opportunity was so well informed and they knew better and they were in a better position than me, I lowered myself. I reduced my worth to sign something that I didn't fully read through. So when we started having issues, I couldn't even legally stand up because when I look at the piece of paper now, I just laugh because it was the most useless mistake that I ever made, but it was a good mistake. So now, whenever there's an opportunity, there's a contract that I'm working on, I always make sure I read through the contract. In fact, most of the time I choose to write those contracts because I just don't want to be bid the same way. It was a lot of money to lose. That's one of the main ones, but I know this because it was a very expensive lesson. The other thing is understanding that you will fail. You know, there could be some lucky people who just start a business and it booms straight away, and that's great and really good for you. But most people will have to fail at least a few times before it actually works. So don't consider the failures a failure until learn from them. Find out what the lessons are. What is the mistake? What did I do different? What can I do better? Find out from those mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and then become better. So I'm saying all this, and I'm not saying this to say you should push yourself into a business that you don't fully understand and then you fail and say, Musonda said you should fail, so this is what's happening. I'm on my way to success now because I'm failing. You might keep failing to the end and just never win at all. So when you fail, something doesn't work out, understand why it didn't work out and then try again. But you have to understand why it didn't work out, because if you just try again the same method, then it's crazy. You can't be doing the same mistakes and expecting that the outcome is going to be different at the end. So whatever it is, once it fails, look at it, and you have to be honest with yourself as well. Did I fail because I didn't do everything I could have done, or did I fail because, you know what, it was just impossible? I did everything in my power to understand this. I used to have a director when I worked in Indonesia. He used to do this. He would ask you to like pull your head up and then to keep pulling yourself up. And then you say like, pull your head up. Do you think you've reached the furthest you can go? And then you say yes. And then you say, pull your head up. And then you keep pulling and you find yourself like going further and further. So he said, and this is an opportunity. This shows you that every single one of us has an opportunity to grow and learn. So regardless of how you think you've understood something, regardless of whether you think you've made it and you're very successful, every single one of us can learn from our experiences. So it's about not getting to the point where you become almost arrogant and start to think that I've done really well, I get this now, and then just go into things blindfolded. Again, for me, I'm lucky because I come from a project management background. I always assess the risks. What are the risks involved in this? Understand what the risks are. Only then will you be able to mitigate them, be able to sort out the risks. Okay, this is the risk. So if this happens, there's a risk that this could happen. And when you understand that, so when the thing that you've mitigated against happens, you're prepared, you're ready, you know? So it's understanding the failures and knowing that failures are inevitable in most business startups, because most of us, when we're starting off in business, we don't know what we're doing. We're just moving blindly. So it's about learning from your mistakes and using those mistakes to build up, to make sure that next time you don't make the same mistakes. So you'd never find me signing a document that I haven't read through, even if it's just a short piece of paper that you send through and say, Musonda, can you sign this? I'm reading through and making sure there's nothing in there that says I will lose money, because I have lost money not reading proper documentation. So it's finding the lessons in your failures and making sure that you cover yourself, study, prepare yourself, and be ready. That's the lesson that I can say.
Okay. And Elkanah?
All right, I think for me, the most important is to be able to distinguish between reality and idealism. I think a lot of the time as entrepreneurs, we kind of think that the journey will be very straightforward and as rosy as we see it in movies, and how it's depicted basically on screen and basically seeing other people's success models. A business plan and what you're going to find on the ground are two completely different things. And we often fall into a trap of lacking commitment because we have the most perfect business idea, which everyone tells us is incredible and will succeed. And I suppose in theory and on paper, it should. But when you actually begin to implement and realize that there are a lot more variables and life kind of has its own plan, you kind of realize that you have to be a lot more committed, adjust, and be able to stick to your guns. And eventually, you should be able to succeed with what you started. So for me, it's really, really important to be able to understand that business plans, reality are two different things, and you have to have commitment. That's probably the most important thing, because without it, you're not going to make those millions.
Okay. And just as we conclude, what is the biggest illusion you had when you started your business? Just picking up off of Elkanah's point of being able to distinguish between business plans and reality. What was the biggest into business with for both of you?
Should I go?
Would you like to go ahead? Yeah.
Right. Okay. So for me, it's a little bit of a backward thing. So I've always found things easy. You know, school was easy for me. I sort of just went through school without really putting a lot of work in, because I found it easy. Same as university, I was able to get a degree without really applying myself enough. You know, so I've always had that. It's just worked out. Things have just worked out. So because things have always worked out, I always just attribute people not doing well or failing to laziness, or they just didn't, you know, they're just not smart enough, you know. So when I started my fruit and veg business, was probably the first one that I actually put and applied myself. And then when I saw the results, it almost did like a penny drop. So the reason that all your other businesses haven't worked is because you haven't applied yourself. You might say you've tried, but you really didn't apply yourself, you know. People, like, I'll go back to what Elkanah just said. People expect the rags to riches. You know, I started with $100 and now I'm a millionaire. And you expect that, you know, you can put in a few hours of work and then end up like Bill Gates and all the other people that have actually done it. You have to understand that it's not going to be an easy road. It is going to require you to work hard. You have to be consistent. You have to understand what you're getting yourself into. And also you can't have a mindset of, you have to have faith and belief in yourself. I was mentoring one there, and I hate to say this about her, but I don't think she'll mind. She got into a network marketing business. And when you speak to the girl, she's a lovely, lovely girl, but she's very quiet and she gives you one-word answers. And I was saying to her, let's be honest, are you sure this is the business for you? She's like, I don't like talking to people. I said, do you understand what the word network means? And she said, yeah. I said, are you sure you understand? She said, no, I don't understand. So I had to explain to her what networking meant. Network marketing is someone who goes and network with people and you connect with people. And you don't like speaking to strangers. So how have you got into a business that is not something that you're naturally good at or naturally enjoy? So I think sometimes as well, we have to be honest about what we are good at and what we can do, because sometimes people think, you know, just because Musonda started a business or Elkanah started a business, I'm going to start the same business. Find the things that you're good at, because when you find that thing that you're good at, it will be easier for you to stick with it. It's not going to feel like too much of a challenge because you'll be enjoying what you're doing. Even if it doesn't bear fruits for the first year or two, you are still enjoying it. But when you enter into something that you don't fully like or enjoy, it will be a chore, it will be stressful, it will be strenuous, that by the time that you're supposed to get to the mark to make money, you would have given up already because you don't like what you're doing. So you need to find something that you're passionate about to get into business in. Because if you try, I think I tried one business before where I knew in my heart this isn't for me, but I got into it anyway just to try, and it didn't work out. Mostly because I didn't apply myself. So you need to be able to apply yourself. To think that you can just decide, I'm going to run a business or start a business and then expect things to work out like they do in the books or the movies, like Elkanah says, you will be very, very disappointed, because it is a lot of work. And a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of being up until late. You know, there's no one paying for your holidays because you can't. And I think this is the mistake that people make. They say, I'm going to start my business, and they have all these plans on how quickly they're going to make their money. It takes time. It will take you time. When I tell you some of the businesses I've been running for 2 years, I still don't take money out of them because they need to go back and reinvest. And that's why I keep my regular job. I keep my full-time job. I work from 8 till 4, and then between 8 and 10, I'm doing between 4 and 10, I'm doing other of my businesses, and at the weekend I'm working on my businesses. So if you want to be putting 2 hours in a day, or make 2 calls in to people today, and you send one email and think I'm running a business, then you have a big shortcoming to you. It's not an illusion, it is the truth. You will struggle.
Okay, so I think those are excellent points, and I know that our viewers have most likely taken away some very excellent tips. I really like what you said about being honest about our strengths and our weaknesses. And I think when you have an honest self-assessment, then you will know if maybe it might be more prudent for you to get a partner who has strengths in the areas where you have weaknesses, and your business is more likely to thrive that way. Just as we conclude, I think I'm very big on Zambians helping one another. and us as citizens also taking responsibility for developing our country. What advice or what thoughts do you have regarding what citizens can do to help the Zambian business environment improve? Because yes, the government has its role to play, and yes, civil society has its role to play. Yes, the corporate world has its role to play, but what can the citizens do?
Elkanah, are you going or?
Can I go?
Yeah, please, yeah.
All right, let me go. I think that one of the most important things that the citizens can do is advocate and push for a conducive economic and business environment. This means holding government accountable, taking them to task, ensuring there's transparency and accountability. Because, like we've said, you can have the best business models in the world, you can have the best ideas in the world, but if citizenry don't have money to pay for those products and services, then it's all pointless. And how this is done is by a government being prudent, being very fiscal with how they handle their money, and creating a conducive environment where people, I suppose, even in the lower thresholds of society, can afford goods and services. If you look at some of the most successful businesses, or most of them, in fact, you would find that the reason they have so much money is because they hit a very wide demographic. Very few businesses in the top tier or the top 100 companies in the world cater to very niche, small, specific demographics. And so in a country like Zambia, for example, if you want to be able to make money, if you want to be able to increase your net worth and compete with the likelihoods of, the Bill Gateses and the Jeff Bezoses, we have to have an environment where people at the bottom of society can afford the products and services we're selling. We can't open Lamborghini stores in a country like this one, but we have to be able to ensure that they can afford basic luxuries like a burger, and that won't happen if resources aren't being run properly and we're not prudent with how we deal with resources in the country. And yeah, so for me, hold government accountable and ensure that they make sure that everyone has money in their pockets. They spend more carefully. We're not in debt. We're not in crisis. We're not always paying back loans. So the cost of living isn't increasing all the time. And therefore, people have disposable income to help empower themselves and obviously to help empower entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll probably try and approach it from the other side. I completely agree with Elkanah.
Okay, wonderfully said, Elkanah.
Yeah, sorry, I think I spoke over you. I wasn't sure you were coming. Yeah, so I said I was going to approach it from the other side. Let's support our friends who are running.
Please proceed.
Let's support.
Dash, are you there?
Yes, yeah. I am. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, so let's support our friends who are running businesses. It's very, as Zambians, we're very quick to support the foreigners and than our friends. And I don't know whether this stems from a point of jealousy, like I don't want you to do well because then it highlights why I'm not doing well. I don't know what it is, but I think we need to start supporting our friends who are running small businesses. If your friend sells chicken and you'd rather go and buy chicken from ShopRite, why don't you order from your friend? Your friend sells eggs. Those little things, that is what will build your friend's business up. And I know that, the government needs to make some changes, but as a people as well, we do need to start supporting each other, encouraging each other, because if you buy from me, this is going to make me grow my business. I'll be able to get more clientele. Refer me to your colleagues that you work with. But Zambians will rather go and buy from ShopRite and Pick and Pay, the organizations that have already made a lot of money and would not help their child if one day their child was stuck and they were not around. They would rather support that business than support the business of their friend, their colleague, their sister, their siblings, the people that they work with. So we need to start supporting each other. Only then will we start to build each other up and encourage and empower each other to stay in business. It's a very difficult journey as an entrepreneur and running a business. So when you have the support of your peers, the people around you, and it shows that they believe in you. When people are buying from you, it gives you that confidence that you may not have when you start your business. When you start to see your products shifting and you're selling out, you start to feel better about yourself. And when people feel better, they do better. So the only way we can support them, if you can't buy from them, encourage them, share their posts on Facebook, if their products that they sell do not fit what you're looking for, share with your colleagues. You know someone who might be interested in that. But the first thing that we'll do, business, instead of trying to help each other and build each other up, as the government has a role to play, but we also as a people have a role to play helping each other up, and for those who are already running successful businesses, pick up some of the small businesses and mentor them, teach them how you're doing it, help them, support them, encourage them, and show them how you did it. You know, don't show them wrongly, so then they don't end up where you are. Show them the correct way of how you've done it, and say, this is how I started, and this is where I started from. This is the path that I followed. You know, reduce their failures, the risks, and the reduce their percentage and the chances of failing, because they can learn from your mistakes. So guide. If you've made it up, come down and pull up some of the people that are trying to run businesses. If you know your dad was in the same business as the business that your friend has started, introduce your dad and say, can you mentor my friend? It's small things like that. But
Hello?
give financial support.
We seem to have lost Musonda, or I don't know if it's me who's been lost at this point. I really don't know with this internet.
I don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yeah. So just go back to where you were talking about supporting business.
No, I was saying, if you know, there's people that are in position where their businesses have become successful, need to come back and help the others, pull up someone else, you know, give them guidance and mentorship on how you've got where you got to, support them, encourage them. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be financial support. Sometimes it just could be transferring your skills. If you work in a digital world, you know, you know how to make websites, and your friend has started a business, advise them on how they can make a website. Maybe say to them, look, I'll help you make this website, but you pay for the costs of running the website, but I'll do it for you as my friend. You know, little things like that. That's the only way as a people we'll get better. But as long as we keep trying to hold each other back, we'll constantly be at the back of the line, because we don't realize the more I pull my friend back, the more I'm pulling myself back, you know. But if my friend goes forward, I can be inspired by this thing, and then I can also end up where they're ending up. You know, we can all grow and move together. But as long as we keep pulling each other back, we'll always end up at the back of the line. And as Zambian, I think that's the biggest, as Zambians, I think that's our biggest challenge, is the fact that we don't like to support each other. So support your friends who are running businesses. That's my take for it.
Okay. I think, Elkanah, I really love your point about, you know, the government's responsibility to create a favorable environment. And I think as young people, it's something that we need to begin to push for, because we are the majority. And if we're all speaking the same place in that regard, I think we will get very far. I think it always irks me that it's easier for an investor to get help and concessions from the government than it is for a young person that's trying to create employment opportunities for other young people. So I really love what you said about that. And Musonda, I really like your emphasis on us supporting one another. I think one of the problems with Africa is we have forgotten about the classic African principles like Ubuntu. Why are we helping other people grow their business instead of, you know, these international conglomerates, instead of our local Zambian businesses? And it's simple things. And actually, funny enough, my video this week, I'm going to be posting a video on my YouTube channel that local market and content, but instead of the foreign that doesn't require us doing too much to help one another. So I really like what you said about all of that, Musonda. I heard a tweet on Twitter a few weeks. No, in fact, are you there?
Yeah. Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, clearly.
Okay, yeah, because I couldn't see your video. I was saying I saw a tweet that where this woman was complaining about a Zambian business she went to, and she listed all of the complaints and everything she found wrong with it. And then she said, but we will keep going until they improve. And I wish that we all had that type of mentality when it came to Zambian businesses, like us going there, listing our complaints, but still supporting regardless. The thing is, we're so quick to cut off and dismiss our local businesses because they're not producing to the quality and the standard that we like. But we give other businesses chances. And I guess it's on the flip side. Also, as Zambian businesses and as entrepreneurs, we need to make sure we're receptive to criticism, because I find that a lot of people take criticism personally rather than taking it as a way for you to build your business. So just what are your final thoughts, both of you, regarding this matter, just as we close this live stream?
Can I just say,
regarding entrepreneurship in Zambia?
Can I just say, your last point on Zambians, I think we also have to be fair on how we criticize Zambian businesses. So, for example, I couldn't judge Elkanah's business and compare it with McDonald's or KFC, who have billions of dollars in backing. You know, you expect that his business to be performing at the same level. As Zambians, we need to understand this is a startup. He's starting his business. He's trying to grow his brand. One, we can't expect the price comparison to be the same with people who are working from a big pot of opportunities and options to tap into. So we expect that his product might be a little bit expensive because he has a lot more. He's got a longer way to go than where those other people are, these other businesses are. So as from a Zambian perspective, criticism is great if it's constructive, if it doesn't stream from a point of PhD and jealousy, and if it's a genuine criticism. So if you say, for example, I come in and say, you know what, your customer service was poor, that's something that anyone can work with, regardless of what your budget is. Customer service needs to be the same. You need to train your staff to be nice and polite. That's a genuine criticism. But if you come in and say, these beggars, they're not even the same as McDonald's, that's a different conversation, because now you're starting to compare some business that has been running for 2 years to a business that has been running for 30, 40, 50 years. So we need to be fair in our criticism of Zambian businesses, because only then will we encourage our people to go. Because when you're running a business, you need people to tap you on the shoulder. And as much as you can tap yourself on the shoulder, you're the most confident person. But every single one of us has those days where we just need that reassurance from people saying, you know what, you are doing a good job and well done. And sometimes that's all it takes, just a word of encouragement. You know what, I ate from the restaurant today, the food was nice. Oh, I bought your dresses, and I got compliments at work for your dresses. That's all it takes. Just a word of encouragement sometimes is more than enough. So as Zambians, I think let's try to support each other, try to build ourselves up, because we can't be competing on the international playing field when there's no one else representing us up there. The reason, and sorry, I know I'm going on a little bit, I'm going to finish soon, but the reason that I think Nigerians have managed to infiltrate their international market is because they've had people who've gone from Nigeria and now are competing, whether it's music, whether it's on Netflix with their Nollywood movies. They've had people who come from where they're from do something. When you have people who come from where you're from do stuff, it gives you that motivation and that inspiration to say, do you know what, that person used to live down the road for me, and this is what they've managed to achieve. This means it's possible for me as well. So when I see someone with the same name as me, the credits running in Hollywood, it makes me realize that it's possible for me if that's happened for that person. But when you don't have enough champions competing on the international playing field, there's no one to aspire to. So how do you then encourage a young child at school who's saying, I want to be an entrepreneur one day, I want to sell this, or I want to be a musician, I want to be an actor, when there's not a single Zambian in Hollywood showing us representing for Zambians, when there's not a single Zambian representing at the Grammys? How can you then encourage people to go into the arts and other fields of entrepreneurship? Because that is a business. You're essentially your own business. You are your own business as an actor, as a media personality. So the only way we can do that is supporting each other. You'll find that Zambians will follow a lot of South African actors and American actors, but they won't follow their own actors. Elkanah should have more followers than Idris Elba's from Zambia, because he's Zambian. He's one of us. Let's support him. Let's put him up on the platform. But we can't expect foreigners to support us if we don't support ourselves. That's my main point, to be honest.
Okay, very well said. And Elkanah, what are your final words and thoughts?
Entrepreneurship is not for the faint-hearted. So if you're going into it thinking it's going to be an easy journey or you're going to make a quick buck, it's really not for you. But if you're willing to stand the test of time and to keep innovating and changing whatever it is you're trying to do, then it's definitely a journey I'd encourage you to take. I think also, just in closing, I'd like to say that all this being said, you can fail, and it's more than likely that you will fail on your first attempt in entrepreneurship, unless you come from a well-established line of entrepreneurs and a business model that's already perfected and refined. I'll give a simple example of Elon Musk, who's failed several times, or Thomas Edison, who had several failures before he finally invented the light bulb. You're going to have to when you're coming up with an idea, you might think it's the gospel, you might think it's the truth, and it's the be all and end all, only idea that can make you money. But you have to be able to adapt, innovate, and realize that maybe what I'm doing at this particular point in time might not be working or might not be what my environment or society needs right now. So keep that in mind. Failure is definitely going to happen. It is possible not to succeed, and it is possible, not to get where you want to with a particular business idea. But if you're willing to keep going and stay committed, then you should succeed in that at some point, just not as quick as you'd like.
Okay, I think very well put. I think what I've gotten from what you've said, Elkanah, is we need to get to a point where we're comfortable with failure. I think sometimes when we're uncomfortable about failing, we don't give our all because we're too cautious. And obviously caution is important, but there's a difference with when you're being cautious and things fail, but then when you're being cautious and you're not able to put your all. So I think to any person wanting to get into any sort of business or entrepreneurship venture, please know that failure is an inevitable part. And like Elkanah said, when you start your idea, you might think that, things are going to work out a certain way. And then, the market dictates otherwise. And even I'll give an example. When I started my fashion business, I had this grand scheme of how things were going to work. I was going to set up this online website and whatever. The moment I did my first market research, people told me, I'm not paying for anything using the internet. That's just not happening. I'm not. And, from there, I had to adjust the business model that I thought I was going to use. And over the years, you have to keep adjusting because there's a lot of failure. And I think I just love what you said, Musonda, about the yardstick we use to measure ourselves. We are very unfair with the way that we measure our local enterprises, and then we cut a lot of slack for international businesses. So with that said, I really would love to thank both of you guys for being a part of this live stream. You've taught us all a lot. And just thank you for taking the time out and just braving this internet. Thank you for everyone that has been viewing this, that has stuck with us from the beginning. And I'll just read a few comments. The last few comments. Tinashe, Musonda, and Elkanah, keep inspiring, keep it up. Thank you, George Chisanga. And then DCM says, I've literally never heard so many people in one place speak the way I think on so many issues. Well, DC, you found your kin here, and it would be good for us to continue these type of conversations going forward, because I think we're the only ones that are going to build our country. We seem to have lost Elkanah, but even just as we close off, anyone who's watching this and you're in Zambia, you're going to be in Zambia, please go to PIGOUT, which is Elkanah's business. He makes a really good burger. I've had it and I really enjoyed it, and I will vouch for that burger. So please go over. I wish he was here so that he could give us location, but he's located in PHI. Right now, he used to be located in Jesmondine when I had his burger. And I think I'll go and have one tomorrow and post it just to prove. But let's keep supporting one another until we improve. And Musonda, hopefully people are going to be able to reach out to you for you to help them broker like some really big deals with other businesses and other continents, because we now know a person that can help us with that. So yeah, thank you so much for the time out.
Thank you, Tinashe.
Have a good evening.
And you take care.
Okay, bye. Thank you, everyone.